Hey, Faith, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here today.
Oh, Jenny, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time in this conversation. Where's home base for you, Faith?
I'm based out of Seattle, Washington, Pacific Northwest.
Mm-hmm. Did
Grew
you
up
grow
here
up there?
all my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Pacific Northwest kind of girl. I like, if any of you are watching the video, she has this beautiful stone wall behind you. This really, I feel like we're in a castle. I told you that the last time we were talking, like there's just this castle energy. I really like it. Okay, so you grew up in the Pacific Northwest. This show has really been examining, people's career paths, like how they got from one point to the next, how we're willing to make pivots and changes, because I don't think there's ever been one person on here who's been doing the same thing the whole way. It doesn't seem that way anyway. It's like maybe deep down, like I was always motivating people. I was always, they show, shining a light on something, but we had different titles. We had different things that we called ourselves. So how did you start your career? Like what were you interested in way back when?
Oh gosh. Well, I started my first entrepreneur venture as a house cleaner janitorial business.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always just adapted to family needs. And so in order to feel like I was paying enough attention to my kids, I would work, different shifts and many, many times nights, so that while they were in bed and dad was home, I would go to work. And it's just kind of rolled that way, where new opportunities, always through divine guidance, I find something new and a passion that I have for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started a bookkeeping business, and that's been going for quite some time in order to serve and help small businesses see their bottom line,
Mm-hmm.
see where they need to be. And now I'm making another transition. So,
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that. Before we do, how did you make the pivot from owning a janitorial cleaning business into a bookkeeping business, which you were the bookkeeper that people were hiring? How did you make that pivot?
right. I did take outside employment through a job for a
Mm-hmm.
couple stints there, and that's how I learned QuickBooks.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I made my next transition out of working for other employers, got
Mm-hmm.
laid off a couple times. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's divine intervention that helps us
Yes.
make those changes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, what do I know how to do that I can help and serve
Mm-hmm.
others? And all businesses, all types of businesses need bookkeepers. So that's how I made that transition.
Yeah, you saw a need there. It was like, okay, every business needs a few things, and one of those things is bookkeeping. So
Yeah.
I'll do that. It seems pretty reliable. Like I can do this, I can learn this, I can provide this. Okay. So you mentioned that you are in the midst of the next iteration, the next evolution. What is that?
The next evolution is, after stepping through my mom's journey with Alzheimer's and dementia,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do something to help that community.
Mm-hmm.
I felt very lonely and alone through that journey. And
Mm-hmm.
although now we have Google, for all that research, and I wasn't reaching out to that. I was
Mm-hmm.
keeping it inside, and it's emotionally draining.
Mm-hmm.
It's physically draining if you're the caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to support the emotional side for families. And so it started with me writing my book about mom's Alzheimer's and dementia. I
Mm-hmm.
Miss You, Mom, A Daughter's Journey into Dementia Land.
Mm-hmm.
And then I felt that wasn't enough, because someone would have to find my book,
Mm-hmm.
buy my book, read my book. So then I just really felt, again, divinely guided to serve that community and help them find each other.
Mm-hmm.
Peer-to-peer support in that community can be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I didn't have. So I'm speaking in memory care centers and
Mm-hmm.
reaching out to those communities and encouraging them as individuals, when they're in a group meeting with me, to
Mm-hmm.
connect with each other, meet with each other, have coffee after they
Mm-hmm.
visit their loved one,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not a topic you can just talk to anyone about. So
Right.
have
You have to
someone
know it. You have to live it. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And I love how you just say, this building community. I hear
Yeah.
that a lot from many of my guests who've been on the show through the years, it's really what I'm deeply in right now. I mean, you and I know each other. You came through my coaching school several years ago. You've been a part of the community that I really kind of birthed in 2019, Magic Makers, which taken on a whole life of its own. It's been really interesting to watch that evolve. And I feel like so many women especially, we're good at that. Like we thrive in community. I think all creatures do, but women especially, when we can come together and support each other. And to your point, it's very helpful to be in community with people who understand what you're going through, whether that be you have a family member or someone who's really close to you who has Alzheimer's and or dementia. And you and I met through kind of the coaching realm, and there's the entrepreneurial realm. There's like all these categories. When you're a new mom, like, oh my gosh, that's who you want to be around. It's like other new parents, because you have similar challenges. You have things that you're going through that the general population can't really understand. So I salute you. And so many of our listeners I know are tuning in going, yeah, that's my thing too. I really want to either build community, or I want to find a community that I can just join so I don't feel so alone. And we're going to go, deeper into that conversation. I'm curious, when you and I first met, when you came into my coaching school a few years back, had you written the book yet? Was that on the way? Like, what was your journey? Because you really obviously have stepped into this path of coaching. And I want to understand too, like how that serves you, knowing what it is to be a coach and, the skill set, and then how to create a business with this lens of coaching as, a big piece of it. What was the timing when you and I first met, and how does coaching serve you and what you're building now with your business?
Well, coaching is the essential part of, communicating and supporting my clients. Mm-hmm. And when I first met you, my book was still a manuscript, and I was searching for a way to complete that. Mm-hmm. Talking to traditional publishers, which is more of a challenge now than it used to be. Mm-hmm. Looking at self-publishing and mm-hmm. what those, ways to do that were. And the timing of everything just kind of rolled together. So I did publish my book through Kid Marketing, and mm-hmm. they helped me get it up on Amazon and do the mm-hmm. cover design and all those things. Mm-hmm. And really you having written your book helped me, inspire me to get mine completed, quite honestly. As part mm-hmm. of Get GUTSY Coach Training School, mm-hmm. I did get your book to read. Mm-hmm. And it was very helpful just to mm-hmm. see someone else that had done what I was trying to do, because again, that's the community, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then the coaching certification was important to me, although I believe all my life I've been supporting people, coaching mm-hmm. them without even realizing that's what it was. Mm-hmm. And through the experience of your program and our face-to-face coaching with each other and the practicing gave me the confidence to keep going.
Yeah. I know. I love that. Yeah, it was. I loved meeting you and just knowing how this all evolved. All right, cool. Faith and I just had a little offline combo. My son Sean was at my door while Faith and I were in this interview, and Faith gets it. She's a mom as I am, and I know a lot of our listeners are mothers, so you all understand that sometimes the kids come in while you're doing something, even though you're signaling like don't come in. And the positive thing that's happened that I shared with Faith, which she can appreciate as a bookkeeper, is my son has, both of them now have like fallen in love with math, because we've discovered this really, kind of what we're talking about, coaching. I have a coaching school, you went to certification, like there's this online program. It's like an educational tool called Khan Academy, which we had heard about, and it's actually a free resource, and they're really, really plugged in around math, and it's grade specific and So he's like, can I do math? So he needed my laptop so he could get onto Khan Academy to do math. I'm like, okay, that's good. That's so
fun. It's important to be excited about what you're learning about.
Yeah, it's true. It's like there's many subjects that can be dry, can feel really boring. I remember when I mean, honestly, in high school, I thought history was the most boring subject in history of subjects. That and physics. I'm like, why? And then I got into college, and I can't remember his name, but I can still see him. The first history teacher I had where I was mesmerized. I'm like, this is incredible. And it's because he had us read some books where you really understood that time and, from that person's perspective. And it allowed me to realize that history is fantastic. But with anything, it's like within our business, within learning, within any of that, you have to find a way in. We need to find a way in for ourselves. We need to find a way in with our clients. Like, how can we make the work? I mean, some of the work feels very hard. I'm sure a lot of the work that you do with your people is hard, but how can you find that way in to connect with them and allow them to feel excited about the path that you're on, and that you're going to be a partner to them to get through the hard moments, because they're going to come, but it's part of the deal in doing this whole thing. So thank you for sharing about your journey of your book. And I'm so happy to hear that my book inspired you to write yours. I know Kathy Kidd, that's her company that you worked with. She's an awesome woman. And, that's important, that we have mentors and guides around us who can show us what's possible. And then we're willing to go hire someone to help us get this thing out there. Because when we have a story, we have a message that we must share, we've got to trust that, knowing that there's at least one person, but a lot more, who is going to be served by this. So once your book came out, like, what were you like, okay, now I have to go create this community. Now I'm going to go do this. Like, how did you know the next steps to take to, further the work that you do with people, dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia?
Well, again, through community and what other people had done, I knew that I had to get the book out there, but I couldn't see the traditional book signing in a bookstore without drawing the attraction of that niche. So the niche is Alzheimer's families and dementia families. And so I was fortunate that my mom stayed in a home called Sunrise Assisted Living, which is a very large organization that has homes in multiple states. And so I reached out to the homes in the local area where mom had stayed. And that's where I kickstarted my book launch, was in the nursing home she was in, and then Sunrise. And then because they had previewed my book, their legal team had previewed my book to make sure that any of my descriptions, were approved by them, because I didn't use the name, but the environment is very obvious to those that are in that situation. And so they approved me, but then they also helped get my name out there to other Sunrise Assisted Living. So I was able to reach those communities and attend their group supports, their support groups for dementia. And that, just those little baby steps also gave me the confidence for doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. I love how they became like partners to you, like promotional partners, connection partners. Yeah. And so you were, like, what kind of work were you doing inside of these assisted living homes, or what kind of talks? Like, how did that look from a tangible perspective?
So it's not your typical book signing where you just read chapters from your book and they purchase your book. We actually dive into some parts of mom's story, and then we discuss how it's that situation, similar situations are affecting those either residents or family members supporting someone with dementia or Alzheimer's. So it just opens up that communication. And my goal is always for that group of people who may just pass each other in the hall and not know each other, for them to connect. So I encourage them to meet for coffee on a Sunday after they visit their loved one, et cetera, and try to help form those communities within these structured living centers. Some of them are assisted living, and some of them are memory care, specific to memory care.
Okay.
they work so hard. The caregivers work so hard with each patient, but the patients get to know each other, but the families don't always get to know each other. And that's what I'm encouraging.
Okay. And so it's a lot of just like connect. And then are you building like your own kind of community? It's that you're leading for these families. Tell me about kind of the business model, or either where it is or where you see it going with this passion that you have for servicing this community.
Where I see it going is also the next step of community building. It would be online. So for the families that are at home caring for a loved one, many, many times they feel trapped because it's like leaving the house with a baby at different stages of this illness. It can be very disruptive to the patient. So I want them to feel connected, and a way to have them connected is like what we're doing here with the computer and being able to see a face or at least hear a voice. So building those Zoom rooms of coaching, group coaching, as well as the individual coaching, and helping a family kind of figure out the family dynamics and who's in denial, who's accepting it, who's the caregiver, who's taking responsibility, how they can support each other.
I totally see that. I see that too. I'm so excited you're saying that. Yeah, because I mean, the beautiful part of when we embrace technology to do all the wonderful things it can do, then we can break down walls, we can break down loneliness when we're mindfully and consciously creating spaces of like-minded people who are going through similar things to gather and to share and connect and get support. And that's really my hope for this podcast, that it inspires those of you listening who are seeing in it, you're going through something right now. You see an issue, you see a gap, you see a hole, and you're like, why hasn't anyone done anything about this yet? Like that's the thing when we're leaders, you kind of look around, you're going, does anyone else see this? Is it just me? What's happening? And over time, when you're truly that leader, when you're courageous, when you know that if you were to focus your energy and your resources on something and be willing to figure it out, then you can really create magic here. You can offer something that is so needed, but other people haven't been brave enough to take it on, or they haven't been called in the way that you have. We all have, we have these calls, we have these assignments, we have these paths that have been set out for us. And then we'll be given clues, and we'll be given, experiences, most of which are challenging to prepare. It's like perfectly preparing you for this leap. So Faith, what would you say to someone who, might be dealing with this right now? When we're airing this episode during Alzheimer's Awareness Month, that's something that, we worked with Faith on. We heard, okay, that's happening. Let's get this out there. Let's do our part to spread this message. What would be just some helpful, quick tips that someone who's dealing, has a family member, maybe in their initial stages of this, their lives are being changed. They're not quite sure how they're going to do it. Like any things that you want to share with our audience who is experiencing this that you've learned that could be helpful for them to hear today?
Okay. Well, depending on where they are in the journey, but early diagnosis is, I found, where all the fears come up. You're wanting to determine how much money does mom have? What kind of medical does she have? How are we going to care for this? All of those budgeting questions. So I've developed a budget spreadsheet to help people just plug in their numbers, because once you can see the future, just like starting a business, you're looking at 5-10 years down the road to see how is this going to work. And then also the key thing to planning is, once you have a plan, then you have a peace of mind. So with that peace of mind, when you can get through the fear and the denial, which is, all of us do that in those early stages, we get through the fear and denial, and you can see what's coming next, you can relax a little bit, and you can embrace your loved one and enjoy that journey. There's so many things that can bring joy to the patient. music. It's as I understand now, music is a different part of the brain that is affected later in this journey.
Yes.
So
Yes.
my mom was a dancer. She tap danced. And so bringing up music could just make her smile and laugh. And whether she was confused or not didn't really matter. We were just bringing joy to the journey. So
Yeah.
that's what I encourage people to do. But it's hard to be joyful when you're in fear. So the first step is trying to get through those fears. And always have, the clinical advice from your neurologist or general practitioner to help guide you through all those patient steps. But there's a lot of support out there around the clinical side. There's less support around the how do we deal with this as a family.
Got it. And that's where you really stepping in and providing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to point that out for our listeners. Again, it's what I was saying before, is you notice a gap, and it's like something that you went through and you're going, this could have been better. This could have been smoother. Well, I'm going to offer it or give a suggestion, but when you all are listening to this show because you are leaders, you're entrepreneurial in spirit, you see a problem and you say, well, I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to go in. A lot of people are like, I'm out. I am out of there, but we go in and we're willing to figure it out. And so what you just said, Faith, really gave me a sense of what it is that you're building in the community that you're called to serve and lead, especially as we're embarking on this next decade ahead of us, where, let's imagine that it's 10 years from now. Like, where would you love to see this all going?
Oh, I am so excited about leading retreats for the caregivers. I have a dream of doing what Esther Hicks and I think Oprah have done on a cruise ship, where you lead the day by day and everyone gets a bit of self-care. Self-care is so important. So, so growing this community to the point where they support each other, as well as doing fun things as part of that.
Oh, I see that for you. I see I see like, bon voyage on that ship. That's like a lot of fun. It's funny. I was just thinking of, like, really everyone take this in. That's it. And I was talking to another client earlier today, and she's really feeling into kind of her next level. And I said, who would you want to go on like vacation with? Who would you want to have to your home? Who would you want to go out, like do this epic thing with? And for you, it's like, who would you want to go on a cruise with? Like that's just a great way to feel into it. For those of you who are maybe in transition, or you feel like your brand is evolving, your work is evolving, and this can feel a bit scary sometimes. It gets muddy. You're like, okay, well, I've been doing this thing for a while, but it's time for the next evolution, but you're not quite sure what that looks like. I found that question around who would you really want to go on vacation with? Who would you want to hole up in a room with for days on end, or in this case, a cruise ship? That will bring a lot of things into the light. And you'll be able to say, okay, that's it. Like, those are the people. And these are the ones I feel most called to help. And I know I've got something for them. I know that this is an area that has brought people a lot of, pain and frustration and sadness and loneliness and grief. And if I can do something to help alleviate that, and as you said, have them be in that place of joy in those final years, like that this is the cards that have been dealt. Okay. And so how can we enjoy the cards? How can we just revel in this person who is still with us, but it's different, it's different. How did this change you, Faith? How did this experience of you caring for your mom in her journey, how did that change you as a person?
I think I did a lot of growing up. I think it was that feeling of, this really isn't about me. This is about mom. And it changes the relationship, because when usually what your mom is guiding you, now you're in reverse, you're guiding your mom. And it was that whole feeling of pull up your big girl pants and, just do it. And those step by steps, I didn't see it at the time. I didn't recognize it as personal growth at the time, but looking back, the 2020 hindsight.
Yeah.
And then also I learned a lot about my wonderful brothers through that process and how we all deal with grief differently, which is has helped me mold this family dynamic. It's okay if someone doesn't want to be there at the end stage.
Yeah.
I also am a hospice volunteer and I've gotten used to that, but that's not meant for everybody.
Right.
And
a good point.
To some, this is still my mommy and I don't want to see her this way. And then accepting that. So
thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. And it doesn't mean it has to lead to, arguments, and sounds like you all really became closer and you gained a new appreciation for each other.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Good point about that with the, death is real. It happens every day, just like birth happens every day. And the more that we can have these kinds of conversations to say, okay, like how do you want your end of life to go? Or how can we move through the end of life with someone who is moving towards that? It says so much about like how we just show up for life. And that, I find our society is probably different in different countries, but here in the United States, like so many people cannot discuss death. It's like, no. Yeah. And, Faith, because you know me, but, having a sister die when I was a teenager, I mean, I was just given this initiation by fire very, very early. And then 2 subsequent deaths after that, by the time I was 19, I had 3 people I was very close with die. And so I can talk about that like very easily. It's sad, it hurts, but it's so natural. It's so natural. And so when we can bring this mindfulness to a very normal stage of life, like no one escapes it. It's not like, what, you are not going to die. Okay? You're such a good person. You're going to get the get out of death free card. No, like you're going to die. We're all going to die. So what are we going to do with this time that we have when we're living? I think that's like a big theme that I'm really into, and I just want to, share with everyone, is just live while you're alive. Live while you're alive. And then, if you have a family member, Alzheimer's, dementia, you can get support around that. So you're not, dying watching your family member go through this shift. Faith, how can people find you? How can, if they want your support, where do you want to take them?
My website is www.faithmarshall.com. And there's a form on there that you can fill out to get on my email list. And then if Jenny could be so kind to put in a scheduling link as part of this podcast, I'm happy to have a discovery call with anyone who's interested in just finding out more about me and how I can support you. And if we're a good fit to work together, I can introduce you into some of my programs. I'd be happy to.
Okay, great. And it's really that focus on families who are going through Alzheimer's and dementia. Like that's your thing. Yeah, great.
Yeah, grief support is a lot of it, because you start grieving. You start grieving as part of the journey.
Yeah, that's super powerful. Oh my gosh. I'm remembering back when I just thinking about my own experience. I mean, that wasn't what I set out to do in my coaching journey, but because I've been coaching for so long, it's been over a decade now. I'm thinking one client in particular, and we were working together when her father passed, and he got sick, and that really took the focus for our coaching. It wasn't like, okay, well, we're not talking about that because we're here to focus on your business. Right. Because of my background, I can go there. And it was one of the greatest honors of my life to be able to really hold her through that. And so I thank you for what you do, Faith. And y'all, my listeners, you can go to jennyfenning.com, search for Faith in our podcast tab on that site, and this episode will come up, and we'll have the link to Faith's calendar there. You want to hop on, you're going through something, and you think she might be able to help you, definitely take her up on that offer. Okay, Faith. So, wow, you have gone down quite a journey. How many children do you have?
I have 3 adult children.
3 adult children. Yeah, I thought so. I couldn't
And
remember.
1
Do they live
grandbaby.
close to you? 1 grandchild. Do they live
Yeah.
close to you?
Yeah, we all live in the state of Washington, so that's very helpful.
Uh-huh.
And
I'm sure it was interesting watching the way you did that, like how they'll be able to serve you. You know, like what will happen. Again, we're all going to die. So long way from now. But when, you know, it's like what an example you set for them, showing how you were able to show up for them.
Mm-hmm.
Were they like part of it? Like what was their?
They were part of my mom's journey. My daughters were in college in different states at that time, so they weren't as directly affected as my son. So they each had their own dynamic and their own history with their grandmother, though, growing up. Because my mom was a dancer, both my daughters were in dance lessons, and my mom paid for them. And so they had that connection. And then my son's connection with my mom was skiing. And so, you know, as we find that relationships they're very individualized. So that was very beautiful. And it's fun to experience their unique memories of my mom. And they've also been introduced to a new side of me through all of this.
That's right.
Yeah. Which is beautiful.
Yeah, I love that this part of this work is that it really is an extension of our soul. For many of us, we feel we've been preordained to this path. Like, okay, I didn't know I'd be here, but this actually makes it feel right. You know, it's like, wow, okay. And our children, for those of us who have been called for children, they've been brought into our lives in some way, they are watching. You know, they're seeing this side of us that mom has, you know, work that she does, and she goes to speak here, she's written a book, or she gets on calls. My kids to me, they're like, they just think I do calls. They're like, are you on a call? And as they get older, you know, I know our listeners have, you know, if they have kids, they're all ages, but they'll get it. You know, later on, they kind of get it. And it's nice that we have this part to ourselves. And, you know, again, just to kind of hop on this whole coaching thing, because so many of our listeners are coaches, so many of my guests are coaches, or you kind of do something else, you realize, oh, wait, I am coaching with that. I didn't realize that I do that. It allows you to have so much flexibility over your time and how you serve at certain seasons, right? Because I think that's really important. I mean, that's like the most important thing for me, that I can design it the way that works. And it sounds like that's what you did so much in all your businesses, Faith, is like, this is what works for me in this season, and I'm going to just make it work. Yeah. All right. Well, you are one gutsy woman. I am so happy to have had you on this show today. I want to know, this is, you know, that finale question I've been asking for many, many years now. This show is, coming up on 4 years. I think when this goes live, we'll have just hit like the 4 years, which blows my mind. So for 4 years, I've been asking this question: what is the gutsiest move you've ever made, and how does it inspire your life and work today?
The gutsiest move, I would say, was publishing the book and starting this venture, because I have a fear of public speaking. So I had to overcome that. And Kathy Kidd was the one who looked at me and said, you know, it's not about you. It's about the people who need to hear your story. And so stepping through that fear is now, looking back, it doesn't feel that big. But at the time, that was the gutsy move.
Oh, yeah. Way to say it. And good coaching there by Kathy. It's not about you. It's not. And that helps us shift out. I do believe that we get transformed by the work when we allow the work to really work through us. But when we're in that place of fear, we're thinking about us. Like, well, what are people going to say about me? What if it works? What if it doesn't work? What is this going to mean? You know, and that's designed to keep us small and to keep us hiding. And when we're willing to come out of hiding and get it down, like get the book out, and then for you knew that the speaking was going to be part of it. That's how you were going to spread the message. And look at you now, like you do this. Ain't no
It's
thing.
wonderful, and it's a lot of fun. It's so rewarding to
Yes,
get the feedback from my clients as to how it's helping them. It just keeps
yes,
me going. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. As you know, I was in Arizona recently, and you get changed again by the work, being around incredible people, seeing different perspectives of what's possible, and just looking at some of the stories we've told ourselves in the past, or that we've taken on as truth. Okay, this is going to be whatever. And so what you just said reminded me of kind of my evolution around this that I want to offer up for our conversation, which is the old thought was, well, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard, or it's going to be super scary, or it's going to be, oh, I don't know if I can do it. It's going to be really hard. And then the new belief, the new thought is, it's going to be really fun. It's going to be really fun. Like, can we shift that? I mean, that's the power of coaching right there. It's like the reframing, the looking at, well, why does that have to be true? Why does it have to be true? And yes, there'll be moments of hard, but like, hard can feel really good too. It can feel really gratifying when you face that fear. And then when on the other side, like, you have these people who you changed their lives, you provided that lifeline where they realize they're not alone. Well done, Faith.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Thank you so much.
Awesome having you here. And everyone, go check her out, faithmarshall.com. Again, if you go to our page, jennyfennig.com, and get this episode in our where the podcast is located, just look for Faith. You will find it. You'll find a link where you can connect more deeply with Faith and get the support that you need on your journey. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. It's been incredible to just be on this road with you again. We are celebrating several years of this show, and it really has been an incredible ride. And I'm so grateful for you all continuing to tune in each and every week. Until next time, get gutsy and go out there and do the thing that you've been called to do.